There's a lot to learn from there. We've also installed sites in what we would call Spain. This is a very, we actually had the help of a group of artists. I don't know if you know these creatures called nasians. They're these sort of seven-legged deer-like creatures. And the interesting thing about them is that they, their prime numbered legs are extremely nutritious. And, if you have a bite of one, it'll sustain you for at least a month. But if you kind of eat the whole thing, it's like, I don't know, it's like venison or something. But the non-prime numbered legs are poisonous unto death. And so if you all, again, I don't mean to be Mr. Math here, but if you remember from school, we know that one is not a prime number. And it was actually the lector of Pedraza who proved it by, he really thought it was a prime number. He ate the first leg and he in fact died. So we gave a little bit of a tribute to him here. And this is what they look like. These are more disputed likenesses. And a group of artists from Madrid were very kind to help us restore a very beautiful wall. Which is, have any of you been to Soria in Spain? About 2 hours north of Madrid. It's very, very austere country, but quite lovely. And so we found this wall. We given permission to kind of to restore these things. And there are different ways of drawing nasians. This is sort of a stylized technique where the 7 hash marks symbolize the 7 legs, whereas there are other ones where it's more sort of, I don't know what you call it, just different ways of representing the same creature. So that's what we call a chimeric sphere historical site, because you actually can, it's not just the plaque, but you get to see certain aspects of that world. So it's also near one of the lichen worlds. I don't know if you're familiar with lichen poetry. It's very difficult to read. In fact, it may take an entire lifetime to translate a single word, so therefore there are all these sort of communities and interpreters that grow up So we also did a site in what we call Australia. In chimerics, there's Australia, but the initial K is neither written nor pronounced. And this is sort of in the western part of Australia. This is a really cool place because the people that were here, when they first, when it's sort of there are a lot of creation stories around islands in chimerics there, and a lot of creation stories around like pebbles and handfuls of rock being thrown into the water. And I don't know if you ever thought about this, when you throw a handful of stones into the water, at that moment, if you can slow down time, it kind of makes a bit of an archipelago. And then this becomes kind of a metaphor in the cultures for the lifetime of a person, of a planet, of a community, or whatever. So the people in this place, they have this story that when the first people of their community were there, they sort of looked off in the distance and they could see somebody coming towards them, and they weren't sure what it was. And so then, of course, they thought, they realized it could, of course, be one of those vertical legs. And so they picked up a handful of stones and threw it into what turned out to be the water, fortunately. And at the exact moment that those stones hit there, it made the shape of 17 of the regions of chimerics, the ones you saw on the map. So so a lot of them deteriorated over time. So we spent about 2 days there restoring them. And it really turned out great, and it was really a pretty fun experience, and it's like a 200-yard long installation. So it's one of the biggest chimerics there installations we've done so far. And it's pretty cool, and because of this fact that there were 17 of these regions immortalized in the shape of the stones, it's a very powerful place because 17 of the missing infinities are said to come through there. So we're still trying to figure out some of the details, but that's me inscribing. It took 17 cubic meters of concrete to restore that, so that was a lot of fun. There's actually Ilial Mayne, another one of these disputed likenesses. During her fleeing, because she's well, you know the story. So this is, and I do feel bad for those of you who already knew it. Then one of the other things that we did, which was quite exciting, was this year we installed our first underwater site, and this is off the coast of what we would call Scotland, and this is I don't know if you're familiar with the story. This is proof positive. Again, I don't know what proof positive is, but anyway. So we. It was a little tough, but it is down there, and they don't get a lot of requests for it. But the unsoiling of Rockall is actually a pretty amazingly empowering act of civil disobedience, because I'm sure you've heard of the Royal Belt. I'll show you the map. Those of you in the front row won't even be able to see this, but this area of the map, you can see pretty much, you see sort of Britain, what we would call linear Britain, and you see Ireland there. But have you ever, have any of you look through the shipping reports and you see Rockall on there, like with the weather reports coming from Rockall? Any obsessive sort of maritime train spotter tag? Well, if you did, you would see this place called Rockall. And it's a tiny little island, but it used to be much bigger. In fact, it was bigger than Ireland and what we call Ireland and Britain together. And the royal family there was very decadent. You probably heard they're a bit involved in the Jack the Ripper slayings, although that turned out to be unconfirmed. But that actually ended up symbolizing like a huge amount of discontent in the community. And so what happened was that there was this rebellion. And the people of Rockall kind of did this amazing thing, which is that the people who were oppressed by Rockall did this amazing thing. They did what we call the unsoiling of Rockall. They decided to punish the royal family by removing all the soil from their land, so they wouldn't have anything to rule over. And there's just this little nub, and that's all that remains. And the woman who organized, who really kind of led the charge of it, was this woman, Melodius Dina Herrick, who was kind of an amazing woman. But in the process of doing it, she realized, I don't know if you know that Edinburgh was originally kind of an archipelago, maybe a little bit like Stockholm or something like that. And as they removed all the soil, they started filling in all these places to the point where there was no more archipelago. And so she realized she'd been doing the work of compost. Now, are you familiar with this? You teach nothing. It's terrible. Compost is the urgent god of directionality. He's the one who's always trying to make the world a little too simple. And some people say he's behind sort of Wikipedia, the Euro, and Starbucks. But I think that, so when you destroy an island, you're actually kind of doing his work for you. But that's a whole other story. I can't. There's a lot to cover. That's all I can say.